Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Apple Box Chronicles. My name is Peyton Buto.
And I'm Adryon Thomas.
And today on the ABCs, we are taking you from A to Z, and this is a big one, on every Mission Impossible movie. All of them. The Final Reckoning is about to come out. We haven't seen it yet, but by the time you're done listening to this, we will have. So the plan here is to talk about every Mission Impossible movie, and then we're going to come back after we've seen the last one, and we're going to stack them all up against each other and basically look at these movies in context to one another and the evolution of the franchise. Sort of a retrospective, if you will. This is not really a, I guess, deep dive into every single movie. That would take forever. We're not going to go through every single plot beat. We're just going to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of each film in retrospect, having rewatched all of them quite recently. Adryon, how did you get into this franchise?
Well, I mean, it's always been around since I was born, but I think I saw the second movie first because my parents had the DVD of it, and I don't remember.
I'm sorry.
What?
You saw the second movie first, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. It wasn't really too memorable. I think it really caught on when I saw the third movie, and then after that, I believe that I went back and watched the first movie, then the second one, then the third one, and I was pretty much caught up by the fourth one coming out. And then since then, I've just been a fan, and I've watched every single one of them in theaters after.
Nice. I have only seen two of these in theaters. My first Mission Impossible movie was Fallout, which is a great way to start. Didn't really know what was going on, but I knew that the stunts and the action were really cool. And I love the Mission Impossible theme. It stuck out to me the first time I heard it, as I'm sure it did for a lot of people. But that was my first one, and then when Dead Reckoning was coming out, I just had to catch up. So I caught up before that movie, and then we did a rewatch just a little, while ago in the last few weeks, and that's where we are now. So I've seen all of these at least twice each.
Okay,
But that's it. That's really, like, I don't have an extensive history with this series. I think they're really good movies, but I was late to the game, as I usually am. But let's get started with the very first film, Mission Impossible. This is before it was like a big movie franchise, and there's some pretty crazy talent attached to this movie.
Oh yeah, especially behind the camera. You got Brian De Palma directing this thing. Man, look at all the writers on this. We got David Koepp, Robert Towne, Steven Zalian, all these guys. I think, yeah, they're big guys. David Koepp did like Jurassic Park. Robert Towne's done like Chinatown. Steve Zalian did Schindler's List. Like,
Pretty
holy
crazy filmographies with these guys.
crap. Yeah.
Also, supporting cast. Not a lot of guys in this that I know too well. You might know some of them a little better, but Jon Voight is in the film.
Jon Voight's in the film. He actually plays one of the OG characters from the original TV show, and he was there. That was the only character that they were able to bring back to this movie. At least have some sort of attachment to the show.
And, of course, Tom Cruise is a producer, as he is on all of them.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the best films in the franchise.
Oh yeah, I definitely set a bar. I think it's, for the very longest time, it was my favorite of the Mission Impossible movies, but I think it might be my second favorite at the moment. But yeah, it's so good, and I think what I love about it is how simple it is. It wasn't at the point where they were too overly focused on the stunts, and it was more minimal and reserved,
Right.
but way more focused on the whole like spy aspect.
There is a tonal, I guess you could say, inconsistency, but I don't want to leave a negative connotation. There is a tonal difference between this film and some of the rest of them. I think for the first few movies, they were kind of trying to establish a tone for the series, and they didn't really know what they wanted to go with just yet. You can kind of see how they're very different and varied in the first few movies, but then the later few movies kind of start to really find their footing, kind of like how this podcast might be one day.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll figure out what we're trying to.
yeah, but do we want to talk about how this movie even came to be? Do you know?
I don't.
All right, so at the time, Tom Cruise, obviously, he's such a rising star, and he wanted to become a producer so that he could make movies that he felt was more right for him and would be a good vehicle for him to be in. And so him and his manager turned producer and partner, Paul Wagner, created CW Productions, Cruise Wagner Productions, that would kind of uh, bring together people to help Tom Cruise make movies that he could be in and be the star of. And he was a huge fan of Mission Impossible as a kid, the TV show. And so when Paramount was like, you could have this IP, he was like, yeah, sure, totally. The only problem was he didn't have a director. So one day, he went to his neighbor, Steven Spielberg, to have his usual dinner with Steven every once in a while. And Brian De Palma was there. And Steven Spielberg and Tom Cruise and Palma, all being big movie nerds, they were just talking about movies during dinner, and then it kind of clicked for Tom to be because he knew all of Brian De Palma's work. After the dinner, he went home and watched most of his De Palma's films, and it just kind of clicked to him. He was like, "This is the director of the movie. We need him to come on as the director." And Brian De Palma was very happy to want to come aboard as well. So I thought that was really cool.
That is crazy. I didn't know that any of that at all.
And you were talking about how the movies kind of feel a little different in the first half of the franchise, and that was because I think Tom Cruise at the kind of when he knew that he wanted this franchise to go on for a few movies, that each movie would have a different director and have a different vision and voice, and it would kind of be like the show was kind of episodic, so it would all have like a different flavor and a different vibe, but it would still have the same like the same, you know, Mission Impossible thing happening with
And
each one.
sometimes it works better than others.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. But what I really wanted to mention with that is that while this movie does feel a little different from the other ones, it introduces some elements and some characters that we're used to and that are a constant throughout the series. Like Luther, played by Ving Rhames. He's in every single movie.
Yeah.
Kittredge, I forget the name of that actor. Do you know?
Henry Sir.
It's like
Cersei?
Caesar or something.
Yeah.
Like it's like a crazy name. Yeah, and you know, Ethan Hunt, of course, the main character, played by Tom Cruise, and his kind of rogue tendencies and like how he has to always go rogue and figure something out. Sometimes he's dealing with some kind of corruption in this movie. The set pieces in this film, they're not as bombastic and huge and intense in a physical way. They're more like just setting up a ridiculous amount of stakes to be like, this is literally impossible. How would you even physically do that? And you see how they do it, and it's amazing. The margin for error is razor thin, and it establishes that which is a constant throughout the whole series. It's just nowadays we're more used to Tom Cruise jumping off cliffs and riding on the side of planes and stuff. But in this one, he just has to like sneak into a really sensitive room.
Well, with this movie, with the very first movie, they were trying to figure out how to really just make it into a movie, because when it was a TV show, they wanted to bring like some of the OG cast members back and kill them off at the very beginning of the movie. And I
Little
don't think
Suicide Squad.
yeah, I don't think anybody was really on board for that. But instead, they kind of got this whole new crew of known celebrities at the time, like Emilio Estevez is in it. Kirsten Scott Thomas is in it, and like some of these pretty big names are part of the crew, and they just wipe them all out. It's kind of like the Drew Barrymore thing, where it's like you have these big name actors and you just kind of kill them off at the very beginning, and then you're just left with Ethan trying to put the pieces back together and figuring out what happened and what went wrong. And I just think that was a really good start to kind of reboot a franchise.
I do love when a mission goes wrong in these movies,
Yeah.
and they have to deal with the fallout, you could say.
But yeah, this movie's great. Again, yeah, we get introduced to Luther, who would be in all three of them, and his arc through all the franchise is really, really great, because he kind of starts off kind of not knowing if he should trust Ethan or not, and by the end of the franchise,
and then he would literally trust Ethan with his life, and anyone else's life.
Yeah. So I think that's really cool, and we get we get the classic theme redone by Danny Elfman, which just like that specific first Mission Impossible score is just so good to me. Like, I love that.
It's really good. Yeah. But you know what I don't think is as good? Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah.
This is one that a lot of people don't like as much as the rest, and I agree. I can see why.
There's a few fans out there, a few people that kind of like.
Yeah, no, and I respect that. It's just, it's not my cup of tea. I just never really feel like I want to watch this when I'm not watching the entire series together. And the reason for that is it kind of just tries to be something I don't think it should be for a Mission Impossible movie. It tries to be like James Bond.
Yeah.
John Woo directed this movie. Robert Towne is back as a writer on this movie. But the thing about John Woo is, like, he has such a crazy cool, like, style to his films, especially with action films. But in this one, I feel like that's used to kind of layer this coolness onto it, and this kind of heightened sense of realism to it that isn't fitting for Mission Impossible, in my opinion.
So
or isn't necessary.
So I think the styles are kind of very different. For Mission Impossible, there is a certain chaos, but there's like a controlled sense of chaos to the franchise, whereas John Woo is just chaos. Like there's shooting everywhere, everybody's doing flips, and it's kind of crazy. But even with all that being said, it feels like this wasn't Mission Impossible. This felt like Mission Difficult.
And that is a line in the movie said by Anthony Hopkins, who is a really cool addition to this film, all things considered.
I wish he came back on the other movies. I love Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, but I mean, we were even watching, I was like, Mission Difficult? I mean, the stakes are just not the same in this movie, and it feels like both the stakes and, like, the coolness of the series are basically just at their weakest. Yeah. Like, it's cool. It's a cool movie. I love when there's, like, doves, and I love, like, all the crazy things that Ethan Hunt gets to do in this movie.
The last, 30 minutes of the movie is pretty great in terms of, like, all the action and stunts that happen.
Yeah, that's all really cool. It's just that
everything before it is just so boring.
Yeah,
honestly,
it's honestly so boring. Like, some of the missions that they go about in this movie are just, like, not that entertaining or fun to watch. It's not really that impossible, I guess.
I think that's also due to the just kind of the struggle of the production, because there was not a lot of big problems, but John Woo, for instance, he's very safety first kind of a director. You wouldn't assume so with his filmography, but he thought that Tom Cruise was kind of pushing the limit with some of the stunts, especially the knife coming down to his eye and him, like, dropping down.
He's like, no, it has to be Mission Difficult. It can't be too impossible. Yeah. Also, there's a cliff climbing sequence at the beginning of the film that's like the biggest. It's like the most large stunt in terms of scale. Yeah. But it's, like, not done in a perilous situation. It's done recreationally, and it's just, like, at the beginning. It's just something he's doing on vacation. And I'm like, come on. That's
it's a super cool stuff. Like, you actually see Tom Cruise, like, climbing those cliffs. Obviously, he's still harnessed, but, like, it's very minimal. And I just wish maybe they could have utilized that in, like, a mission. Like, maybe there's, like, he has to break into a building that's, like, on a cliffside, and he has to climb the cliffs to get there or something. Yeah. But they just they just kind of put it out there as this is him on vacation, which is also, it's a cool idea, but it kind of feels like a waste of stunts and talent.
Yeah, there's just kind of not a lot in this movie throughout that really hooks me, but last act is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it was really just the writing.
And
they had a big problem with like just getting the story figured out. They went through so many writers. They had to bring back Robert Towne to kind of put the pieces together because they had all the stunts all figured out, but the story just wasn't coming together, and that would be a recurring production problem throughout most of the films. Is they would have, you know, a draft, they would figure out all the big stunts, but then going back, they don't, not everybody's a fan of like the storyline or what Ethan's doing, so they have to do a bunch of rewrites to the point where like the first draft wasn't even like the same. And I believe they do that so much to the point that when later on when Christopher McQuarrie comes in, he kind of just uses that as the template of how to make a Mission Impossible movie. Just figure out the stunts first, then we'll figure out the story.
he's like, we're gonna have that shit happen anyway. We might as well just steer into the skid.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's really interesting too. We'll get into that for sure.
I also want to mention that this is Hans Zimmer score instead of Danny Elfman.
And you can tell.
And you could tell. It sounds... there are parts in this movie that sounds kind of like The Dark Knight.
Yeah. Hans Zimmer, good composer.
Yeah.
I just... sometimes it's all cut from the same cloth in some of his movies.
There's really only so much you could do as a person trying to create something that's different than what you've done before.
Right. So... there's another thing in this movie, just real quick, I want to mention, and that's the first, like, MacGuffin in the franchise, so to speak. There's Chimera. It's like this poison.
It's a virus.
Yeah. And that's just something I want to mention. I just want to establish that there are quite a few, damn near one a movie, just things that might come together in the last one. I have a little bit of a theory that they're kind of reintroduce a lot of these things.
Yeah, in terms of the MacGuffin, I think they do it better in the next film because they don't really focus on it.
I agree. And the next film, Mission Impossible 3.
Yeah. So if you look at the productions, there's a big gap between 2 and 3. And that's because they were pretty much in developmental hell for like a while. They were initially supposed to do the movie like pretty much a few years later, but it kept getting backed up, and there was a lot of controversy with Tom Cruise and the directors they were bringing on, and it just wasn't coming together. Fun fact, David Fincher was brought on to be a director of the third one, and they couldn't get it together. He was trying to do something completely crazy and different, and it just wasn't landing as a Mission Impossible kind of movie. And then they got on another director, Joe Carnahan, and he worked on the project for 15 months. That's over a year of working on this thing. And that didn't come together either. So much time has been passing by, and they could not figure out how they were going to do the story or what they were going to tell with the next movie.
Sounds impossible.
Yeah.
But this movie just opens. I mean, it becomes a banger. And I think people have said, I've seen people say that this is like a guilty pleasure film. This is like something, oh yeah, I like the third one, still for what it is. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
This is actually one of like a top tier entry in the franchise.
I
love
really
it.
is. I think J.J. Abrams was a great pick, and obviously Tom Cruise brought him on because he saw Alias, which is also a spy TV show, and he loved how he was dealing with those themes. And so when he did bring on J.J. and J.J.'s writing crew, they asked for more time, which would push the production back even more. But it seemed like Paramount was like fine with that, because at the moment, at least they knew it was gonna hit fairly big. It's a Mission Impossible movie, and the last two movies did great. And Tom Cruise was in the middle of doing War of the Worlds, and right after his big like couch. Do you remember the couch incident when he jumped up on Oprah Winfrey's couch? No,
No.
that was a big thing. So when he was with Katie Holmes, Oprah was asking him about how his relationship was going, and he was like, "It's so great," and he like hopped up on top of the couch and started like jumping, and people saw that and they were like, "Oh, it's so cringy." And then his Scientology stuff came out really strong, and Tom Cruise was like, "Psychology doesn't work. I know more about psychology than you do." And it's like he was going through several controversies at the time, and he was kind of not in the best light for studios when all of this was happening. So when they were giving Mission Impossible 3 more time for production, it was kind of waiting out those controversies to kind of die down. And I think it was a good choice, but there was also a thing with South Park where they
Right, right. Yeah, they like made fun of him on South Park.
yeah, right before the movie, and there was this. So I don't know if any of this had been confirmed or not, but supposedly he came out against South Park, and he was like, he wanted Paramount to take the episode down and everything, and so people started to boycott the movie of Mission Impossible 3. And then it just turned out that he didn't say that. He came out and he was like, "Yeah, I don't care what people are saying about. I don't watch TV like that." So it seemed like there was a bunch of fake news surrounding that, and it was like bad press for the movie, and that's why Mission Impossible 3 is like one of the movies out of the franchise that had the least box office success out of all of them, which is unfortunate because like you said, it's one of the better ones.
It's a banger. I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman playing the villain. I love how the villain in this film is like approaching just being a complete psychopath.
It's so good.
He's so good. He's so menacing. He doesn't like you just feel a lack of empathy from him. But he definitely has like a code. He has rules that are kind of shown in the movie as well.
Yeah.
And I just love that. And I love how it tests Ethan's ability to kind of deal with this guy when he's in his most emotional state, which is the fact that he has like a wife that now that he has to protect, and then this guy like is gonna come after his wife, and like he plays dirty.
Yeah.
And it's really intense, and the whole movie is kind of dripping in like sweat and blood, and it has this like really gritty kind of feel to it. It's a very grounded kind of human Mission Impossible movie. It's very personal for Ethan. I think the style reflects that. It almost looks Michael Bay-ish at times. I think J.J. Abrams did a good job. I really, really like this movie.
Yeah, they were really going in a different direction than the second one because also, 9/11 happened, and they were kind of pushing for a more realistic depiction of what, if there was an IMF, what would that look like? And so when you see like the first mission happen when he's trying to save Kerry Russell's character,
Right.
They're like in all uniform and everything, and they have a bunch of big tech, and they have helicopters, and it feels a bit more almost like they're in the military. Like it's in a way it seems almost like propaganda.
I mean,
it gets very.
You could argue that a lot of these films have something like that a little bit.
But even with Lawrence Fishburne, who's in this movie, and he's kind of like, isn't he the antagonist? And
he's so good.
He's so good, and they really make this movie about national security. Like they take it so serious. There's like a scene that I always love where Lawrence Fishburne says that he would bleed if that meant that the stripes on the flag would still be red,
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's what makes it so good. The dialogue is just really good in this
Yeah, the
movie.
dialogue is fantastic. And J.J. Abrams is a kind of a TV guy, so therefore, him doing a franchise like this makes sense, especially because he would produce a couple films as well.
Yeah. He
And
would be the producer for all the films up until Fallout, I believe. And there's a through line through all of those movies,
yeah,
which is really great. And yeah, no, this is I love this movie. The Rabbit's Foot.
the rabbit's foot. I don't know what it is about the rabbit's foot, but it's become so important to me
Yeah.
because the rabbit's foot is a MacGuffin, like we were talking about earlier, but it's focused on, like, what it is focused on so little. It's just this thing that we know is important in the movie,
Hmm.
and he goes and he steals it, and it's one of those things where, like, you've seen him do stuff so much at this point in the series that he goes into the building and we actually stay outside the building,
Hmm.
and then he just comes out, he's like, I got it, like 45 seconds later.
Yeah.
And it's really funny and it's really intense because he's getting chased out of the building, but they never show him go in there. And then in the Final Reckoning trailer, there's this shot, and he's grabbing the rabbit's foot, and he has that short Mission Impossible 3 hair, which is not the hair he has in the Final Reckoning.
Yep.
So they're going to show a fucking flashback, and they're going to show how he gets that, and that's going to be important in the last movie. I even at one point thought they were going to do some time travel, but that would be stupid. I don't think that's actually going to happen.
No,
that would be like Fast and Furious, but
No, I think that might be correct. I think they might do a flashback to them getting the rabbit's foot. That would be really cool if that happened. It
he's going to
might
be
not,
like,
but
oh, yes, I saw Gabriel once. I didn't know it was him at the time. I don't know.
No.
It's stupid.
But for the whole thing about the rabbit's foot, it's such a MacGuffin. They don't ever explain like the true importance of it through the third movie or any of it. But later on in the series, I always felt like they were gonna bring it back.
Right.
For instance, in Rogue Nation, there's a little tiny gesture towards rabbit's foot when Rebecca Ferguson has the keys and there's a little rabbit's foot on there.
Yeah.
And it's always like they're calling back to it, but they never fully bring it back. And I think they might do it for Final Reckoning, and I think that's gonna be really cool if they do.
But also, in the opening, which is so cold, it's so cool. Like it's like immediately just, what the fuck? This is crazy. It's Ethan Hunt tied to a chair, and his wife's tied to a chair, and Philip Seymour Hoffman has a gun. He's like, I'm going to shoot her in 10 seconds if you don't tell me where the rabbit's foot is. And it's like this whole thing of him counting, and Ethan Hunt's like losing his fucking mind. He's like, I don't know where it is, and that's it. That's all you get before the opening title sequence, which is really crazy.
It's the best opening.
It's the best cold open for sure, but they say, where's the rabbit's foot, like, constantly, and you as a viewer, you're like, oh, well, this movie just started, what is the rabbit's foot? You don't know. By the end of the movie, you know just as much.
True.
But it's, I mean, hey, that's J.J. Abrams for you. It's a mystery box. They're going to come back to it. But at the end of the film, obviously Ethan Hunt, saves the day, gets his wife back. But I mean, it's just imagine, like, being Ethan Hunt, your family's been threatened. You're really going to have to watch your back from now on and become kind of a ghost. I wonder if there's any, like, protocol for that kind of situation.
Maybe there's a ghost protocol. And
Mission Impossible 4 Ghost Protocol. Let me tell you exactly what I was thinking at the end of the third one. They did it. Brad Bird directed this movie.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think he should direct more live action movies.
This was his first live action movie that he did.
That's insane.
And it's nuts. It's the genius of just bringing on an animated director to do this live action Mission Impossible movie, which is very different from the movies he's done in animation. I guess the closest thing would be The Incredibles, but The Incredibles are about superheroes, and this is a Mission Impossible movie.
Well, there's some espionage.
Yeah, for sure.
Even
Michael Giacchino's the composer for this one as well, and you could really hear The Incredibles sometimes come out.
I mean, this one, we have some new cast members. Paula Patton who I behave very normally about.
You love Paula Patton.
Leah Seydoux is in it, which is
She's
cool
great.
because I think
Yeah.
this was kind of before she was super huge.
Yeah.
Jeremy Renner is
Yeah.
in it, which is really cool. I like him. He's kind of the realist character. He's like, what the fuck? No, that's not going to work. Like, he's really kind of worried about the odds of everything, and everyone else is kind of used to it.
He's kind of like C-3PO.
Also forgot to mention, in the last film, we introduced Benji, played by Simon Pegg, who is a constant in all of these movies, so he's back for this one as well. I absolutely love not the cold open necessarily, although of course it's a good scene, but the opening credits. It's like he lights a fuse, and then you follow this fuse through like this whole sequence of, it's like animated through like all these different things that are going to happen in the movie. And I love the rendition that Michael Giacchino did of the score. It's my favorite opening credits sequence just to watch. I do really like that one. I thought it was really imaginative and cool.
Yeah, I've always had a soft spot for this movie, and for a long time actually, this was like my favorite to second favorite Mission Impossible movie, because it just does all the things I love in a Mission Impossible movie pretty well, and it's just always consistently entertaining to watch, and it feels like just the basic kind of Mission Impossible movie. Like, this is like, you could kind of just watch this out of any of the movies, just kind of out of order, and still get pretty much everything you need and want from a Mission Impossible movie.
I agree. It's not one of my favorite ones. I don't know what it is about this one. I love it. It's a great movie. It's just, for some reason, this is one that I don't think I would go back to as much as like the third one or any of the ones that follow, but or the first one. I think it's like, it's kind of next to 2 on my ranking, but it's like this thing where there's a huge margin between this and Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah. For this one especially, I think I just loved the way the movie just kind of looks, and I love the Burj Khalifa stunt, and
that is a great stunt.
It feels like it has its own kind of iconography with it. Like I especially remember the Burj Khalifa stunt, and that being such a big thing for the franchise. I think that was really the starting point for having huge stunts in the movies, and
that is true.
Really like pulling off some crazy stuff.
I think you're right about that. I also think that the iconography, like you were saying, I mean, I always just remembered, even before seeing these movies, seeing Tom Cruise with that fucking hood in all the posters. Yeah. So I think this one does have its own distinct kind of vibe to it, and Brad Bird brings a little bit of that. There's this running kind of theme or motif in the movie that technology kind of fails a little bit, or it doesn't work the way it should, or something glitches. And I think that might be like a Brad Bird thing.
I think it's a Brad Bird thing, but I also think it's a mission thing. I think they wanted to showcase that, like, not everything's gonna work out, and you kind of have to keep pushing forward, because they really take the stakes. Like, they keep going. They, like, things just keep happening that's not in their control to the very, very end. Like, it's so close to being over. It's so close to being Fallout in that movie.
Right. I mean, I just don't fully love the villain in this movie. I think we agreed on that.
Yeah, that is, I think, the weak part about this movie is just the villain, and how very little we focus on his motivation.
Yeah, but that, I feel like, is something, when there's a standout villain in these movies, it's awesome, but I think not a lot of them are that. Like, a lot of people don't love the villain in Dead Reckoning, and obviously he's going to be back in Final Reckoning. The villain in 2 is like whatever to me.
Yeah.
Even the first one, I'm just like, that's not, I mean, it's important, it's significant, it's above average, but I just don't really think about that when I think about these movies.
Well, with the first one, I don't think it's really much like, you don't really know who the villain. You don't know that.
Right.
There's a mole, I guess, but I think it's more about clearing his name. Where this is also about clearing his name, but he knows who the villain is. And
a lot of them are about clearing his name.
Yeah. He's pretty much disavowed in almost all the movies, and he's just being like, no, There's a way for me to get catch these guys and like make
More
me
like Ethan Hunted.
yeah, yeah. It is interesting that his name's Ethan Hunt. Like,
It's a cool name.
it's a cool name.
It's a really cool name.
Anyway, with I also want to mention this is the first movie in which they in the Mission Impossible series in which they shoot IMAX.
Oh yeah.
And it's the fourth movie ever, fourth theatrical feature length movie to shoot in IMAX.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Well, that is really cool.
that's really cool. And to have Brad Bird do it is really risky, but also like really cool as well because he's a first time live action director.
They believed in him.
And they had to do that for the Burj Khalifa scene, which is also just crazy that they got that to happen in the first place because it's so crazy dangerous. And they had to break out several windows of the Burj Khalifa and like hook up like rigs and a bunch of stuff. And everybody who was close to any windows, they had like a little like tape that's like several feet away from a window, and once you pass that tape, you had to wear like a harness because you could fall out, and
Fall out.
crazy, it's dangerous. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good movie. Really enjoyable, fun Mission Impossible movie. I like it a lot.
Before we get into the next one, I also want to say that again, this movie had a bunch of like writing stuff that they couldn't really figure out, and so they brought in a script doctor to kind of figure out how to piece everything together, and that was Christopher McQuarrie, and
The guy, the
and
guy himself.
He's the one who brought back Michelle Monaghan, who was his wife in the third movie, because they were originally gonna like actually kill her off, and he was like, no, that's too harsh, we shouldn't do that. We should have like maybe a through line or something. And he pretty much fixed a lot of the big problems in that movie, and I think that's one of the big reasons why Tom was like, yeah, you should come for the next one.
And I mean, at the end of this film,
Yeah.
Ethan Hunt, he walks away, he sees his wife, and he has to turn away. It's very emotional.
Yeah.
He disappears into the smoke, and he's gone rogue once again. I mean, it got me thinking, if only there was a nation of rogues that he could, like, join up with.
Almost.
And unbelievable what happens next. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation.
Yeah.
The next film, directed by Christopher McQuarrie.
Yeah. And
he read my mind.
The way they segue through these movies is like really interesting to me, like with each new director and what they're trying to plan with the next one. I think Christopher McQuarrie was just the best case scenario for this, because not only did he help fix problems from the fourth movie, but he'd worked with Cruise a few times beforehand, and I think they were saying that it was on Edge of Tomorrow, which Christopher McQuarrie co-wrote. That's when they really planned on him coming back to direct the next one. And obviously he also directed Tom Cruise in Jack Reacher, and they first met on Valkyrie, which Christopher McQuarrie was also a writer on that one. So they've had like a long like standing relationship before even this movie, and it just kind of made sense that they would come together because they both are very mutually respectful with each other in terms of the talent that they're bringing to the movies.
Yeah, they're a great duo. I really love when they join forces.
Yeah, and this is another great Mission Impossible. They keep getting better.
Arguably the best. I know, I don't know if that's top of either of our ranking, but arguably the best. Anyone who says that this is the best one, I totally understand. It's so good.
I think it's arguably the best only because they introduce a certain character in this movie. My God.
Ilsa Faust.
Oh my God.
Played by Rebecca Ferguson.
Oh my goodness.
A fan favorite character.
I can't believe it. She's so good.
Yeah. And oh my God. They struck gold.
They definitely upgrade on the villain in this one too.
Yeah, Sean Harris plays the villain, and he's really cool. He
I
has a
like his
great
voice.
I was about to say he has a great voice. He's really menacing. You could tell he would go to some pretty dark places to get the job done. Also, stunts in this movie are pretty fire. I mean,
Pretty
Christopher McQuarrie knows how to direct a chase scene. There's a fantastic motorcycle chase scene in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
There is the big stunt at the beginning, which is it's kind of like Mission Impossible 2, where it kind of has the biggest stunt at the beginning, which some people might not like, but at least in this one, there's some stakes
Yeah.
and there's some things happening. It's not just him flying on a plane for no reason. And then also, there's this really, really awesome stunt that Tom Cruise does in the scene where he meets Rebecca Ferguson's character. He's chained to a pole,
Yeah.
and he I don't even know how to explain it to you.
He pushes himself upward with his arms, but his legs are also above his.
So he
body?
rolls backwards onto the pole to become he's leveraging himself with his arms and his shoulder,
and he's hopping up
and he's
over the pole.
He's leapfrogging up the pole, just using his body weight as
his upper body
swinging.
strength is insane.
Yeah, I don't even know how to fucking explain to you. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Have you seen it?
It's such a small stunt, but so impressive. Most people cannot do what Tom Cruise did in that.
It's absolutely insane. It's bananas.
And yeah, we have several other characters brought on, like Alec Guinness. Oh my god,
Alec Guinness. That would
Alec
be
Guinness.
fucking insane. Just comes back from the afterlife.
Alec Baldwin comes in, and he's a fun inclusion to the series.
Let me tell you something about Alec Baldwin's character in this film. Let me tell you something really quickly. Okay, the scene in which he says, I feel like this might be the single greatest performance Alec Baldwin has ever given. I haven't seen a lot of his movies, but the scene in which he gives a monologue about Ethan Hunt and he says, Hunt is the living manifestation of destiny. That scene is literally the best thing to ever happen to me my entire life. Okay, seeing that scene, it fills me with a joy that is just not the same as anything else. And it's so funny to me. I love it so much. I could watch it on loop infinitely. And his delivery is perfect, and that's why he's perfectly cast. I'm so glad he's in this movie.
And you love the reveal, too, of when Hunt actually shows his
Well, no,
face.
that's part of it.
Yeah.
That's literally a perfect 30 seconds of film ever put on fucking celluloid.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing ever. That's so ridiculous for me to say that, but I actually feel this way. You understand, he explains how if you've seen all the other movies up until this point, you know what Hunt is capable of.
Yeah.
And it feels like Alec Baldwin has been watching Mission Impossible with you. The way he describes it, he's like, yeah, no, you're totally right. This dude is way not worried enough about Ethan Hunt. And he's like, he is likely listening to this and predicting this very conversation right now. He's the living manifestation of destiny. He is him. And then right after that, just casually, Ethan Hunt, who's pretending to be someone else, he's like, sir. And he turns over and he just casually shoots him with a trank. And then he takes off the mask. That's another thing we haven't mentioned, the masks.
Yeah.
They always get me. But he takes off the mask and Alec Baldwin's just like, Hunt. It's the greatest scene of all time.
It's that's the thing with Christopher McQuarrie's such a great writer. He blends the tones for these movies well.
He knows how to execute the perfect level of camp and silliness in these movies. It's not detracting from anything. It's still completely serious and sincere in the ways that it needs to be, but he is able to understand when the characters should find something amusing or when the characters should kind of say something in a hyperbolic sense like that. It's just that scene, and I'm glazing it so crazy, but it's true. It's that is literally a microcosm of exactly what McQuarrie is good at. Is he's good at making these movies that are so fun to watch, you can take seriously, they get emotional, but they have these moments that are just so self-aware.
You have to. It's Mission Impossible. They are doing some crazy stuff. You have to have a character be like that.
He's literally God, bro. Yeah. Have you seen what he's doing? That's amazing.
I love the scene where Ethan Hunt basically dies and they have to resurrect him after drowning, and he like tries to go hop over a car and he just like falls over, and Simon Pegg's like, "Are you okay to drive? You just died." And Ethan Hunt's like, "What are you talking about?" He's just so out of it. All he could think about is getting the mission accomplished.
Right. And he's just like resorted to like factory settings.
Yeah, it's but speaking of which, that stunt where they were underwater, great scene. I love that scene, but Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie didn't like that scene. They said that they thought it could have been better, and that's why in Final Reckoning there's gonna be another underwater scene.
That's why they were like, well, we're just gonna make the entire arc of the last two movies revolve around a fucking submarine so that you can do that shit again, because that was, God, so irritating. It's not good enough.
Yeah, basically that's how they felt about it. And in a weird way, I also, when I saw the movie, because I feel like that was kind of like the big kind of climactic like Mission Impossible thing happening in the movie, where they're doing crazy things where he's holding his breath for like over 3 minutes. It doesn't feel as like, in the movie it is risky, but like you could tell that he's not actually like doing anything crazier than just holding his breath for like 3 minutes or so.
Right. And yeah, no, not enough.
Yeah,
Try
it's just
again.
not enough. It's crazy saying that, because it's hard enough to hold your breath for like a minute, and
Kate Winslet can do that.
Tom Cruise
Try
is
again.
Like really good, but yeah, there's something about that where it just doesn't feel like it's a big enough stunt for him.
Yeah, I mean, he has a standard for himself.
Yeah, and I mean, they get better.
They somehow get better.
Yeah.
Well, this film wraps up pretty nicely. Mm-hmm. They catch Sean Harris's character, the villain. They lock him in a glass cage at the end. Really awesome stuff. Yeah. Hunt completely outsmarts him because he's the living manifestation of destiny, as we've established. And they caught him, but they did not kill him. And it had me wondering at the end of the film, is there going to be fallout from this? I just... Guys, imagine my surprise when we put on the next movie, Mission Impossible Fallout. He read my mind again.
And there is fallout, and this movie is the best of the series.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, I don't think I can even debate that, because holy shit.
This movie is crazy epic in its stunts and what it's trying to do, and it takes everything to the next level.
So this movie, first of all, we bring in a few new characters. Great addition, Henry Cavill. I love him in this movie. Like, his character is awesome. It's like a Ethan Hunt, but like more focused on brute strength instead of strategy, and you kind of see how they don't get along in that way, and they can't really work together, and how they're different, and how, he has some weaknesses that Hunt doesn't have. Just great character.
He's a good opposite for him.
I love that, yeah. And then we also have Vanessa Kirby.
Oh my god. Like,
they brought Rebecca Ferguson, and then they're just going to add Vanessa Kirby on top. Like, great character as well. She's very like sarcastic in a way, and I think that her character is pretty cool. I like that they brought her back in the one after this too.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure a lot of people this went way over their heads, but Vanessa Kirby's character is actually the daughter of Max, who's a character in the very first movie that Ethan Hunt comes across, who's an arms dealer, and Vanessa Kirby's character kind of takes on her mother's arms dealing operation, and I just think that's so cool to connect the first movie and this one back.
McQuarrie does that. He really appreciates everything that came before. He incorporates everything that he can, in a way that makes sense too,
Yeah,
and makes the world feel consistent even in the later movies. This is the 6th movie in a franchise, and somehow they're still getting better.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a different vibe to this movie.
Yeah.
It has like a filmic look to it. The cinematographer is Rob Hardy.
Yeah, that's the cinematographer for a lot of why am I blanking on his name? But Ex Machina.
Oh, Alex Garland.
Alex Garland, yeah. He's the cinematographer for I think all of Alex Garland's stuff except for maybe Warfare. I don't know if he was the DP on that one. But yeah, it has that kind of a little bit of a washed out, almost like desaturated look to it, but it's also very good. Like
It like
it
really
looks like a Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah, and there's some Nolan-esque scenes in this too,
Yeah.
like a scene of Ethan Hunt like envisioning himself like killing someone.
The kind of like the heist scene is very Nolan.
Yeah, it's like in slow-mo and
Yeah.
really dramatic and emotional. So I think this is a movie where a lot of the characters are kind of reckoning with how their practices get them into trouble, and like, am I doing more harm than good by maintaining this kind of moral compass that I have, and all that stuff. And I think that it's just top tier on every front. Like, every stunt in this movie is a top tier stunt in the franchise. Every single one.
Every single one. And when we were talking about this, it reminded me of John Wick and how these movies are just kind of, they're really pushing the stunts to the limits, and this is why it's really cool that the Oscars are finally after so many years putting in nominations for best stunts.
Which sucks that we won't get any wins for this franchise unless they make another one.
Yeah. But yeah, they're literally every single thing, like when they fall out of the plane to when he's on the helicopter.
The helicopter chase scene is so good.
The motorcycle chase scenes, everything. It's so good in this movie. It's hard to top.
Yeah.
it's very hard to top.
It's very hard to top.
And this is kind of like, in a way, this is sort of like an ending for like the J.J. Abrams movies. This would be the last J.J. Abrams produced film, and it ends the Michelle Monaghan storyline with him and his wife and how they separated, but they leave on good terms.
It's honestly really sincere. It's really sweet. I love that they included her in this movie as like kind of in the last act. She's able to help them a little bit, and I think there's just a really beautiful moment for them.
Yeah, and there's almost not a lot to say about this movie because of how just good it is. Like
it's already been said.
Yeah,
it's so good. I think it's perfect. Everything about it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my favorite Mission Impossible movie as of now.
There's just no topping it. I think this is a miracle movie.
Yeah.
It is. And it's going to be an action genre classic forever, I think.
Yeah.
Like, for a long time. Sean Harris back in this one. He's got a beard now. Just as good.
Yeah.
Really good.
There's the villain, him, and Henry Cavill. It's just so good.
Yeah, I love the Henry Cavill character.
It's so
really
good. Like, I think of each and every scene. I'm just rethinking. I'm just like, oh, that's a great scene.
We're just going glaze for glaze.
We're just
right now.
glaze for this
like,
movie.
I mean, the bathroom scene, come on.
Oh my god. Just like the arm reloading. Like, come on.
Yeah.
The trailer for this movie, just sold it. I remember when this trailer came out.
They made an Imagine Dragons song in the trailer go crazy. Like, it was
so
amazing.
good. Like, I remember watching this trailer and being like, I cannot believe they're doing this. Like, I watched that trailer so many times when it came out. I was so excited.
It's just so exciting. And the movie delivers.
And when a movie delivers after that much excitement, it's like...
It's the best feeling.
It's so good.
It's so good. God, what a film. But I mean, the stunts in this movie are insane.
They're
I
insane.
mean, they're arguably at this point they're a franchise high. They're like super dangerous. After all these stunts, I reckon he's gonna be dead soon. And you know what? I think Christopher McQuarrie was thinking the same thing because wouldn't you know it, the next film is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, not Dead Reckoning Part 1 anymore.
No.
They changed that retroactively.
I think that's a good thing too, because I hate when movies are like, "Oh, this is Deadly Hollows Part 1. This is Deadly Hollows Part 2." No, just I get it with the
with adaptations, it's different. But with this one, I understand that they're trying to make a two-parter. They're trying to make an epic that follows like one storyline. And the thing about this one is that even though they removed the Part 1 from the title, it's still got Part 1 isms.
Yeah.
You know, still got Part 1 energy to it.
Like, I mean, the movie ends on a cliffhanger.
Right, exactly.
Literally.
But also, there's just a lot of things set up where you're like,
it's literally a cliffhanger.
Oh, yeah. But I also think there's just a lot of things set up where it's like, I feel like I should know more about that, but I have to wait until this next movie to figure it out. But what's interesting about this is that it's not another Fallout. Because you can't make another Fallout because Fallout is too perfect. Instead of making another Fallout, Christopher McQuarrie, he makes a movie with similar scale in the stunts, and that kind of excitement is still there, but he combines it with the kind of De Palma roots of the franchise, the paranoid thriller, so many Dutch angles. The dialogue is very like whispery, and kind of over serious in a way, in a way that's kind of funny at times. And I think this movie is really interesting, and it becomes more interesting the longer it's been out because it's a crisis of faith movie about the future of our civilization, but also of films, of the movie industry with the introduction of AI.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about it is they make it like this crisis of faith for the characters, but also movie lovers right now. They're going through a crisis of faith. They're like, how, am I going to be able to believe in movies for much longer, before they just all become AI slop? Like, what's going to happen? And Tom Cruise, big believer of cinema, and he wants to basically save cinema. This is a movie about him fighting AI for the future of cinema on a meta subtext, I would say. But it's also very biblical as well. It's like got the cross crucifix looking key thing. There's a character introduced named Grace, played by Haley Atwell. There's also a character introduced named Gabriel. Those are biblical names. You have the technology and all of the things that the characters are used to using failing them and tricking them and deceiving them, not just breaking down and shutting down like in Ghost Protocol, but actively working against them. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what happens when you have to when all of that stuff kind of fails you, and there's this entity that could kind of intercept you at any moment when you're doing your typical thing that you're used to doing. And so the characters have to go very analog in this movie. They have to rely on the close-up magic that Tom Cruise does, which they bring back from the first movie, sleight of hand, pickpocketing, things like that. They're not at the mercy. They're at the mercy of their technology instead of the technology being at the mercy of them. And I think that is why they filmed the movie to be more grounded and more up close, like the De Palma films.
Yes, I agree with all of that. I think it's actually really smart of them to do all that stuff because you're bringing it back to that Cold War era where everything was analog, and you really had to be, when you're a spy, you really had to hone in on your skills, because anything that slipped out could give you away and ruin your mission. And with the entity, it kind of knows every decision you're gonna make before you even make it. And I think it's just a really cool, in a way, villain concept, because that's one of Ethan's biggest challenges, is trying to figure out ways to complete the mission, even if it's an unorthodox way of doing it. But if the entity already knows how he'll figure it out, then he can't be predictable anymore. He has to be unpredictable in a unpredictable way. It's like
Yeah, it's like what happens when the entity can predict that you're going to do all these crazy things
yeah,
that you are so used to doing. It's like before it was more about, oh, there's no way he could pull that off.
yeah,
In this one, it's like the entity knows you can pull that off.
yeah,
You know, and it's expecting it. It's even counting on it.
yeah, and I think that's so cool. And yeah, there's a lot of things that I do love about this movie. It's so hard to beat Fallout. It's so hard to get there. But I think on a thematic level, like all the themes and the ideas, it like it there's a lot in here, and they're all really good.
And
Like
there's some great stunts.
yeah, and the whole thing about him, he's getting old. He has to like kind of transition other people to come into the IMF and like bring on a new crew of people. And I think that's really cool that this movie kind of starts off with him receiving one of
The mission
yeah.
kind of call to action messages
Yeah,
that
and
are consistent.
yeah, and a new recruit comes in, and he's kind of just like bringing him on.
Yeah, he's like, you made the right choice.
Yeah.
He makes, so there's a motif in this film, like you were saying, about him kind of passing the torch to the next generation, or at least teaching people, like, you know, the code the code of ethics for these sorts of things. And that's also you know, chiefly with Haley Atwell's character, that's the idea. But what I think is so great about it too is that it plays into what we're saying about the biblical subtext about the crisis of faith when it comes to AI in movies. It's like Tom Cruise he's Mr. Movie, right?
Mm-hmm. The president of Hollywood, as Twitter says.
Yeah, and so Tom Cruise is basically, I think, saying to all of us through this film, like, it's not about what I can accept anymore because I'm not going to be around forever. You have to choose to accept the right and wrong too. You have to make the choice that's best for the rest of humanity, or in this case, the film industry. You know, it's not, if you choose to accept AI in movies, you're going to get AI in movies because we talk using the movies that we go see. That's our voice, is our money.
I think that's a brilliant way to end this franchise, assuming that Final Reckoning is going to be the end of the franchise, because, you know, Tom Cruise can't do this forever.
No, and he unfortunately can't.
Yeah, and he needs everybody else to kind of like give in to the fact that films need to continue on through, you know, human creativity and just passion for wanting to make these big movies, these just crazy stunts and all that. It's all for the thrill and excitement of the viewer, and you're not going to get that if it's all digital and fake. And
I want to add on to what you're saying. I want to tell you just a small story, an anecdote from my life too about this movie, is that when this movie came out, I got a text from my uncle, actually, who's a big movie fan, and he sees movies all the time. And he says, yeah, I cried during the cliff jump scene that Tom Cruise goes off the cliff with the motorcycle that you can see in the poster right here. I cried during that scene, and I said, oh, yeah, I mean, it was pretty emotional for the character. You know, he sits there and he thinks about, you know, the people he has to protect, and then he goes and he jumps off the cliff. But my uncle said to me, well, I cried because it was real. I cried because Tom Cruise actually did that. And he was crying at the fact that a person did that for the movie, and that, like, we didn't know if he was actually going to be safe or not when he did that, as he never does.
Yeah.
And that, I just think, is important. It's because that is why you can't get that with AI. You can't get that with something that's generated. Tom Cruise doing that created an emotional response in the viewer that is different and irreplaceable when you compare it to something that's not for real, that's not actually, because it's a movie, it's fantasy, but these are real people you're watching. That's how we connect with these movies, is that we know that they're made by people.
Yeah.
And they feel like they are living things as a result. So I just wanted to share that because I think that is kind of the goal of this movie, and I felt like that really paid off.
Yeah. All these themes. They're all, I think this has the best sense of like let me rethink.
No worries. Go ahead.
I think that this movie, out of all the movies, has some of the best conflict and dilemmas and just things going not to plan.
It's more of a psychological film.
Yeah, obviously all the movies, things aren't going to plan, but this one is really just like Ethan Hunt is really going through it.
I mean, these
Yeah.
guys are facing something they never faced before, and,
Yeah.
and they're really scared. They're scared for their own existence, their own viability, or what's the word? Like, going obsolete, basically. I mean, like, can a movie like this even exist anymore if we let AI take over?
And I think this is why these two movies, Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning, are probably going to be a great ender to the franchise, because not only are they really doing that, crisis of faith, he's like really getting pushed to the limit, but like we said earlier, we're bringing it all the way back from the first movie. We got Kittredge back. He's like one of the main. He's not a antagonist.
He's kind of someone that Ethan doesn't always get along with, but they're kind of reluctant acquaintances, I guess.
Yeah, and the MacGuffins, and it brings it all together, I think, very nicely. And I'm just excited to see what Final Reckoning is gonna actually do.
Yeah, I mean, Ethan's gonna have to finally reckon with all of this. And that's the name of the next movie. Yeah. So what do you think you're gonna see in this film? So this is the thing, we haven't seen this movie. Yeah. As we said, we will see this movie. The episode's not over. You're gonna hear our thoughts on the movie, but right now we're gonna give you what we think we're gonna see, and then you'll probably hear a cut, and then we'll be like, we were fucking wrong. That's what's gonna happen. So
okay, so what
we have a couple questions here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that I think we will see the rabbit's foot come back.
And it's going to save my life. I think it's going to give me the motivation I need to move on and to continue living, I think.
Yeah, I've been waiting too long for it not to come back.
Yeah, I need that.
I've always thought that the rabbit foot would come back, and I just hope it does.
We're rabbit's foot heads over here.
Just in case you haven't seen Dead Reckoning, I won't spoil anything, but a character does die, and I think another character might die in the Final Reckoning. I just don't know who. It could be Luther, could be Benji.
We can spoil the movie. Like, this is a retrospect. We're going. We won't spoil the last one.
Yeah,
but we can. Yeah. If you haven't seen Dead Reckoning, Ilsa Faust dies. Rebecca Ferguson's character dies, and my heart breaks for that.
We were so sad about it. I'm kind of mad about it. It's like, don't do it to her, and then they kill her off, and it's like, oh man. It really does suck, because I truly love her and her character and what she brought to the series. But now we have Atwell.
We do have Grace, played by Haley Atwell. Rebecca Ferguson's character is just a franchise highlight. I really don't want to believe that she's gone, but I think she actually is gone, and that's just such a shame.
Maybe they may have a flashback of her in this one.
Hopefully, just to have her on my screen one last time.
But I honestly don't think that'll happen.
Who do you think could die in the movie?
That's the thing. I don't know. I think it would killing off Luther would be like a big one. That would be a big.
It could happen.
And the thing is, another thing is, during Fallout, at the very beginning when there's that shootout, they were considering killing either Luther or Benji in that scene, but Christopher McQuarrie was like, that would be, for the franchise, that earlier on in the movie too, would be just heartbreaking.
It's like, fuck that, we're killing Ilsa Faust instead.
When Ilsa Faust dies, I get it. Like, the villain kind of gives you an ultimatum, and if the movie doesn't allow that ultimatum to work out, then it's like,
I mean, in a way, Tom Cruise says in the movie, Ethan Hunt says, like, my life will never matter to me more than yours. To Haley Atwell, it's like this thing of, like, I don't even know you that well, but because I'm not going to be here forever and you're probably going to be here longer than me, I need to teach you what I know and I need to value your life because you are could be just as important in a way. And maybe Rebecca Ferguson's character dying is kind of like exemplifying, like, you know,
She had to die
passing of the
for,
torch.
yeah.
Yeah, she's like, well, I have to die for, this other person to kind of take the reins. I don't know. We'll see if they'll definitely probably mention it. There's no way that they don't at least acknowledge that sort of thing.
But I do think it would be kind of crazy to kill off Luther. I feel like that's the most emotionally, like, devastating one to do. But we'll
it would be crazy if they killed off Ethan, but also kind of would make sense if he just dies at the end. He's like, "This is my final reckoning." He just dies.
Mission accomplished.
And then, or some sacrifice. I could see it. Grace dying would be actually brutal. It would be like, oh damn, like she was the next generation. You're just gonna kill her off. I don't think that'll happen.
I think Benji is safe because a few times his life had been at risk, and there were times where it's like, oh shoot, is Benji gonna die in this movie? And they don't do that. I think it would just kind of be kind of rough.
They could subvert it. They could be like, oh, Benji's in danger again. Oh, he's dead. He's actually dead now.
Yeah, I think that would just be kind of rough. I feel like Benji should have a happy ending.
He deserves it. He's pretty stressed out most of the time. I could see Luther, like, accepting his fate.
They could kill off maybe Kittredge.
Kittredge would, I think, be actually like a end of second act death. That could happen. I could see that happening absolutely.
Kind of like the Alec Baldwin character.
Yeah, it's emotional because he's been there from the start, but he also hasn't been in a lot of the movies anyway. So I feel like that could definitely happen. Will anyone come back though that we haven't seen? Michelle Monaghan, I don't think so.
I don't think so. They tied that.
They tied that up. Paula Patton, yes or no?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's me. Wishful thinking.
That would be kind of crazy if they just brought on Paula Patton. It's like, I'm
Come
back.
on now. Don't play with me. Ilsa Faust, yes or no?
I think if they do, it's gonna be some sort of flashback. But I'm also, I don't think that's gonna happen. I think her death is
I think I'm in agreement on that. That was her final reckoning. Anthony Hopkins from Mission Impossible 2.
I think that's not going to happen at all, but that would be amazing if it did, because he's so good.
I completely agree.
Him and Lawrence Fishburne were so good at, like, being kind of his superiors in those movies, and they never come back in the series, and I feel like they should have.
I agree. Lawrence Fishburne from Mission Impossible 3, yes or no?
No, I don't.
Yeah, no, he's been in movies recently. He's working, but I don't think they're gonna bring him back. It would be awesome though, because that character is so sassy. I love him. Yeah. No. And then lastly, most importantly, the guy from the first one that they disavow and send to Alaska from a watchtower. Are they gonna bring him back? You think?
I think they've surfaced that guy is coming back.
Actually?
Yeah. I think he is coming back for the final reckoning.
He's finally getting his reckoning. That's awesome.
I think he is going to come back. I don't know how big of a role he's going to have, but I think they are bringing that dude back, and I think that's going to be really
well. That's
really
my
cool.
goat. I love him. So yay. What do you think is going to be the best stunt? There is a plane stunt that's been heavily advertised. The submarine obviously will be really cool. There's an aircraft carrier that Ethan Hunt has, and he like jumps out of an aircraft into the water, which is pretty cool. And then there's also there's a knife fight as well with I think the classic knife from the first movie that falls down.
So when it comes to advertising big stunts for the Mission Impossible movies, they always advertise the big stunt that's going to happen earlier on in the film. For instance, in Rogue Nation, the plane, when they advertised the heck out of that one, Christopher McQuarrie was like, yeah, we got to put it early in the film so that...
That's not always true. Dead Reckoning happens at the end. The motorcycle.
That is true.
They usually do, though. You're right, usually. The Halo jump from Fallout happens towards the start. Fucking Mission Impossible 2. Shit happens like immediately. It's so stupid.
But I think, yeah, so the submarine stuff and the aircraft carrier stuff, I think that might be in the same part of the movie. Like, I think he might be jumping in maybe to reach that submarine. Who knows? I don't know. I
don't think so, because it's like icy in the submarine area.
That is true.
But you could be right. Maybe it's a different season.
Yeah, maybe it's summer and everything's cool.
Ethan, your mission, you must wait until summer when the ice is melted.
But I think the airplane sequence looks really cool. I think that's going to happen maybe earlier on in the movie, but I don't know. They all look really cool. I'm just
Ethan, because of the entity's effects on the environment and because AI leads to worsening of climate change, the ice caps have melted over the submarine, so it's really easy to get in there. And then Luther looks directly at the camera.
Yeah, and he's like, do better, government.
Sorry, I had to.
But, yeah, I think the good thing about the trailers and showing these stunts is that I'm getting a lot of the Fallout vibe. Like, some of these stunts look like Fallout level.
It's a high bar.
It's a high bar. That's
the
thing. I know, that's the thing. If it, I don't think it will be as good as Fallout, but I don't know. The stunt of him on that plane looks really cool. Like, he's actually doing that stuff.
So this is a difficult question. I don't really have an answer to this, but how do you think they're going to tie the MacGuffins together? What's going to be the significance of, like, the knife and the rabbit's foot?
So the rabbit's foot, in the third movie they said it was like an anti-god. It was like basically like a computer virus, and I think the rabbit's foot is gonna come out to be like, it was like the early version of the entity that, like,
oh, okay, wow, that's really cool.
So I think that's what's gonna happen. They do show the knife a lot in the movie. I don't really know what the significance of the knife is gonna be, other than maybe the guy that goes to Alaska, he might be like, remember this.
They have a fight. You know, something else is that what you were saying kind of triggered a thought. The rabbit's foot, maybe Ethan's gonna feel to blame for the entity, because
he was the one that broke the rabbit's foot out,
right?
And
he's gonna be like, because and that's thematic too, because he did it to save his loved one, Michelle Monaghan, and it's like, look, that, and then Kittredge is gonna say, that's the pattern, isn't it? You refuse to sacrifice the ones you love, and then you fuck everybody else over, and then you gotta fix it. This is exactly what I've been telling you, Ethan. You're right. That's definitely it.
I think that's. I would honestly be surprised if that's not the case, because I've been thinking about it a lot, and I was like, if they're gonna bring the rabbit's foot back, that's how you do it.
Yeah, I think that would be a smart way to do it. And then finally, last question. We see Ethan Hunt go inside the little entity mask in the trailer. Do you think he's going to go into, like, some Matrix-style thing and, like, do you think he's going to talk to the entity? Like, the entity's going to have a voice?
Maybe.
Because I know it can mimic voices. And here's a thought I had. What if, when he's talking to the entity, it's trying to play at his emotions, right? And it takes the form of Ilsa Faust, and that's how we get Rebecca Ferguson in the movie.
Now you're cooking.
I'm cooking. Come on now.
That actually sounds like it would be kind of fun. But I think when he puts on the mask, I think what the entity is going to do is going to show what his future might be. And, like, he's going to be like... And Ethan Hunt might just have to, like, find a way to change it. Like, the entity is...
He's going to have to finally reckon with that.
The entity is going to predict all his moves, and Ethan's just going to have to find a way to do the exact opposite of what the entity predicts that he'll do.
And that's how he's going to have to die.
He might have to... We might have to reckon his death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that is the first 7 films. That's all we think is going to happen in the last movie. Super excited to catch it. I think we're going to see it, like, twice before we come back to
we're going to see it in 40X and in IMAX, I believe.
Yes. So we will see you guys in 2 seconds when you continue listening.
We're going to cut right now.
How was everyone's week?
Pretty good. We're back.
We're back.
We saw the movie, and it was good. I liked it. Yeah.
I would even say really good.
Yeah, it was really good. Personally, it's not the best Mission Impossible. It's pretty like middling for me. Like it's not the best, but it's not the worst. But that's a good thing because there's
I mean, there it was never. I don't think it was ever going to be as good as Fallout or as not good as 2. So,
yeah. So,
I mean, one could have guessed that.
yeah. But we are going to go into spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, you might want to come back afterward, but we're going to get into kind of some deep spoilers.
Yeah, this we kind of have to because
Yeah.
we did predictions and we want to make sure we're following up on those. So the movie immediately pretty much establishes a lot of exposition, a lot of use of montages and flashbacks, which I somewhat expected for a final film. I kind of forgive it because it's like a really big franchise that's been running for about 30 years, and I think it deserves to celebrate itself a little bit.
So there's two types of flashbacks. There's the one at the very beginning where they go through like all the movies, and that's really good. But there's another type of flashback where they go right back into Dead Reckoning, which we both agreed was not necessary.
No, it wasn't. I think if you haven't seen Dead Reckoning before this, I mean, Dead Reckoning was at one point called Dead Reckoning Part 1. So if you haven't seen Part 1 and you go into this movie, which is essentially Part 2, you shouldn't have to flash back immediately to the movie you just supposedly watched 2 years ago when it came out.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, there's some things you might have to remember, but I think you can get reminded by those things just by seeing them. Like, if you see Palm Clementif's character has a scar, you'd be like, oh, I remember, yeah, in the last movie, she got stabbed.
Yeah.
You don't need to actually see her getting stabbed again. I thought that just kind of added to the runtime and made things a little bit less smooth in how they flow and everything. And, yeah, the movie does do, I guess, its hardest to try and really speedrun getting you up to speed with everything that's going on if you haven't seen the other movies as well in a while.
Yeah.
But really, I struggle to believe that all of that was necessary, and I felt like that was kind of a misfire.
Yeah. Well, as much as I like this movie, I think the biggest problems are its pacing. The first half, they like you could tell just in the editing that they were really trying to like get to the halfway point of the movie.
So there is a bit of a, I guess, not a theory, but there is something that I think has merit to that I like about the first stretch of the film specifically. Now, I think there's no denying that it just as a movie watching experience, it can be a little weird and it can be confusing in its pacing. But I think that there is such an oddness to it that I do feel like some of it kind of has a sense of logic to it. And that's because of the opening. Because the movie just opens on this shot of the entity, the box thing that Gabriel gets into a lot in the last movie. And you have all these voices of like older lines from movies past. You have Solomon Lane in there. You've got Vanessa Kirby's character in there talking about like the end of everything and all this crazy stuff. And then it's showing like you're in the thing, like it's showing the POV of someone being in the entity, like watching all of this happen. And I guess it's supposed to kind of, you know that this was probably not intentional, but I guess it's kind of supposed to be like, oh shoot, all that stuff they were saying before, it's all been leading to this moment. And I think really that's more of a retroactive thing that they're trying to do.
Yeah.
But there's something about that specific object in the movie that the way it's almost coffin-like, to where I think that this movie actually is like the title Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning. It really, to me, says that like Ethan Hunt, or by proxy Tom Cruise, is like scared of dying. Is like scared of not being able to die doing what he loves or what he feels he's meant to do, which is, in Tom Cruise's case, making movies, and in Ethan Hunt's case, the mission, right? And instead becoming obsolete because of the existence of AI. And this is something we talked about a lot in Dead Reckoning, about Crisis of Faith and all that stuff. I think it's continued in a pretty cool way in this movie, with all of the like frantic editing and stuff at the beginning. There's a motif constantly of Ethan being asleep and having to get woken up, usually by Grace, in the movie.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of rambling right now, but
Yeah. No,
that's I think something that's actually intentional, and that the kind of breakneck pace of the beginning of the movie, it's almost like you're watching like a hypothetical in a way, the way it's edited together. It's very strange.
so I'm I don't know if they wrote this at the same time as doing Dead Reckoning, but I do know that through most of Mission Impossible's franchise, they would do the stunts first, and then they would kind of figure out the story around it. And Christopher McQuarrie is a great writer, and he was really good at doing that, especially with Fallout, and even with Dead Reckoning. But with this one, it's like they had the stunts, which are really good. The stunts are really good in this movie, but they kind of struggled a little bit to get to those stunts. There was a lot of there was just a lot of figuring out what the main actual story was, as well as including all those themes that they wanted to put with the fact that this is the final movie, and they're doing a lot of homages to the earlier movies, as well as kind of homaging to the 90s political thriller that we were used to when the first Mission Impossible came out, with, like, you know, all those Jack Ryan movies and Tony Scott movies.
Right.
So there is a lot that they're putting in this movie, and it could kind of be heavy on the back end in terms of the stunts, but also heavy on the front end in terms of exposition.
Yeah, to me, it's just imbalanced.
Yeah.
It could be the same movie, but I think if they had maybe written in, I don't want to get greedy here, but if they had maybe gotten like one more stunt in there,
Yeah.
to kind of put in the middle of the first half,
Yes.
then it could have been, I think, perfectly paced,
Yeah.
because there really is only two major stunts in the movie. I mean, there's some things here and there.
Yeah, there's some action scenes, fight scenes, but like the stunts itself, there's like two really big ones, one in like the middle and one in the end, and
Yeah.
they're great. But I feel like we needed one near the beginning to like.
We
kinda
needed an
pace it.
establishing stunt.
Yeah.
But what I really do like is the way that this movie establishes its world. You have the entity, it's kind of taking over all of the weapons networks of all the different countries, like controlling all the nukes, and so it's like America's like the last one. They have to like stop it before it gets control of everything and like eliminates all of humanity.
Yeah.
And what I like about this movie is that it kind of follows up Dead Reckoning in the sense that it's not just about Ethan anymore. It's not just about how there's a problem and Ethan needs to fix it. It's really about how the problems affect all of us, and if we're all going to survive, we need to all be on the same page in terms of what does and doesn't belong in our movies, what is hurting our world, what, you know, how prioritizing each other's lives basically.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, you know, these official bodies in the movies in the context of the film are given the opportunity to sacrifice, like they essentially get a trolley problem, and they're like, oh well, if we sacrifice this, then we can save this many. But with Ethan Hunt, he's different. He's like, no, I value the one life just as much as the many, and it might seem impossible, but there is another choice where you can, you know, put yourself on the line and really get things done and save things. It's, you know, it's a fantasy, it's a movie, right? Not everything works like that in real life, but I think it's cool to kind of escape into that world where that is possible, and then you kind of can maybe bring some of that into your reality and approach situations in that way as much as you can.
Yeah, no, this movie is definitely social and politically motivated for sure, because they're really trying to say, like, we have to be kinder to each other, we have to be reliant on each other, and we can't let, you know, we can't let the worst of humanity get the best of us.
Right.
And I think they're definitely saying that through like all the political and socio-political stuff that's been happening nowadays, and I think that's really cool.
I also think it's really cool, and I think that I said this in my review that I wrote on like Letterboxd, that the best thing about Ethan Hunt maybe isn't that he is trustworthy, but it's that he trusts you first.
Yeah.
It's that he is trusting.
Yeah.
And I think that's this movie, I if I had to describe it in a word, I think it's about trust. It's a very team-oriented movie. It's just about trust and love being the most powerful things we have as humans. And especially, like I was saying about him constantly being woken up in the movie, he's constantly woken up by a loved one, by a person that he cares about, essentially bringing him back. You know, there's like a lot of death in this movie. There's a lot of things that should kill him that technically like do kill him in a way. There's a part where he literally bites down on a cyanide capsule, and I guess it's assumed that it's not a real cyanide capsule because he kind of like starts to choke on it and then he immediately is fine.
Yeah.
And I think he even says to Grace, remember, Grace, it's only pain. And I think maybe he's trying to subtly communicate to her, this is like a pain capsule. It's not real.
Well, I think that's more of like just the comedic thing. It's like, don't worry. It's because she's afraid that, oh, I'm going to get hurt right now. But we could also see it as a way for him to be like, for me, it's only pain. Like, we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, it's a bit like, it's just things like that. It's a little confusing. But in the movie, he's constantly rejecting and being rejected by death. And I think there's also an interesting thing about AI in this movie as it relates to a movie star like Tom Cruise, where he gets into the entity suit, which we were wrong about. There is a voice, but I think it's Gabriel's voice.
Yeah.
And he talks to it, and he's like, I don't accept that we have to like end the world or whatever. And when he talks to it, he gets out and he's immediately like, are you real? Is any of this real? And I think in an abstract sense, it's like when you see something with when we're living in a world that's so occupied by AI, it's sometimes we have to question how real everything is, especially in movies. There's always that kind of doubt now where you watch a movie and
it's not just movies. It's everything. It's like literally
it is everything.
It's pictures. It's literally everything where you have to kind of question, is this real or is this AI? What can I trust? What can I not? And that's basically what the movie's trying to say.
And I think that's why Palm Clementif's character, when he gets in, she says it will change you. Like it's like once you've seen it, you kind of have to question everything else.
Yeah. So let's get into the predictions that we made.
Yeah, some of the predictions. So
we were right about Rabbit's Foot. I was right because I knew this was going to happen. Like, come on. You had to bring the Rabbit's Foot.
You cooked, though. Like, you knew the exact thing, like, what was going on. It almost, when I looked at, so I posted a little short of our predictions on Wednesday, right before we saw the film, and I was like, we got to get these out, like, before tomorrow when the movie's officially out. And it's like, watching back the predictions, I was like, damn, we're good. We're
like, half of them, we were, like, on the dot. Like, we were talking about, like, who would die. And I figured, like, Luther would be the most, like, I said it would be the most brutal, but also the most, like, almost, like, emotionally impactful one, which it was. Like, he does die in this movie, but it's, like, it's not, like, one of those sad moments where you're like, no, it was kind of relieving in a way, because, like, Luther, like, even in the movie, he says, what am I going to do? Retire?
Yeah, I'm right where I want to be.
Yeah. So
there was into what I'm talking about.
There was definitely a bittersweet moment when Luther dies, but there's also the ending when Ethan hears Luther's last like words, and it's kind of beautiful. It's like, it's great. He's telling Ethan exactly how he operates and that's why the world needs Ethan Hunt to do these missions, because only he has that idea that anything is possible. Like, it's called Mission Impossible, but that's the reason why he's here, because he can do the impossible. And it was just a good, like, closing, like, little moment with Luther telling Ethan that, you know, he loves him and that everything was going to be fine because the world has Ethan Hunt.
Well, he also says, I'll see you again, hopefully not too soon. What I think all of this means is that I think, so they have this thing where when Luther's introduced in this film, he kind of is implied to have this terminal illness.
Yeah.
and it's never set up in the other movies. It happens off screen, and he's suddenly just like bedridden, and he's still doing stuff, but he's like he's on his way out in a way. And there's even like a moment where Luther's like, I recorded you a last message on here, and Ethan's like, you'll tell me yourself. Like, he's trying to have faith that Luther's gonna make it. And then when they have this moment where he's kind of stuck and he has to defuse this bomb, but he can't save himself, that essentially he's given the opportunity to go out on his own terms, doing the thing that he was always meant to do, which is save people, solve the mission. And he's always the guy doing the tech stuff and defusing bombs and all this stuff. And so I think that's why he's so accepting of what's going on. He's like, well, what am I going to do? Retire? Like, am I going to, this is exactly what I'm meant to do, is this right here. And I think that he hopes the same for Ethan, is that one day Ethan, or even, like I'm saying, Tom Cruise, I think it's all meta, is that he can go out doing the thing that he feels he's meant to do and that he loves to do before AI essentially replaces him and makes it obsolete. Like we were saying in Dead Reckoning, it's like it's more emotional, and it makes moviegoers feel on a greater level because of what Tom Cruise is willing to actually do on camera, and because of how much he loves making authentic films. And when there's something that threatens that is like, I imagine, a little scary. It's like, well, I want to go out doing what I love. I want to make movies into my hundreds, like he recently said. Am I going to actually be able to do that? Is that actually going to be viable for me with the way that the world is going? Is everyone going to be willing to trust me again and again to deliver on something? And I think this movie that's the big, is like, you need to trust that human beings are the path to the greater world. It's you can't rely on like a machine or an algorithm. Like, we need human creativity if we are to continue to survive. And I think that's all this movie is really championing, is trust and faith in human creation, human creativity, and human ability to solve problems.
So what Ethan Hunt, and what I also believe, is that if you use AI, you're a bad person.
Particularly generative. AI.
If you use AI, I have absolutely no respect for you. Like, to be honest, if you use AI in any case in which you're replacing the human element, I have absolutely no respect for you. I don't care.
You shouldn't supplant human work with artificial intelligence. It's what we're meant to create. We're literally meant to create. A lot of the time we prefer to consume, and I think a lot of sadness and imposter syndrome comes from, I think, consuming more than creating, in my opinion. And I just think AI is making it all the more easy to not want to create and to kind of take a shortcut, and also it, people lose their jobs. It's bad for the environment. There's so many things.
Anyway, back to the predictions. We got William Dunlow. We kind of figured they were showcasing him in some of the marketing stuff, but he is back from the first movie.
We're so good.
We figured, obviously, since he was sent to Alaska, he'd be in like a snowy place where the Sevastopol would be around.
This is something that his character says that I was like, what? He goes, it's happening, isn't it? The entity. I warned people for years about this before I was like sent here. Bro, you called it the entity. But it's like the rabbit's foot was the source code that Ethan let out. That happens in 3. He gets sent away in 1, but he still called it the entity.
Well, I mean, that's what it's called now. He probably didn't call it that back in the day, but he was like, this is the same thing that I was warning people
but
about.
It seemed like he knew without actually having seen or learned about it firsthand. It seemed like he knew that this was coming like way back in the day. Maybe it's because he knew about the rabbit's foot. Maybe he,
I think that is what he's trying to say. Is like, I knew about this computer virus thing that would eventually
maybe they just, that was another name for it that they had under confidentiality. I don't know.
Well, I think it's just semantics.
I think I'm just nitpicking.
Yeah, you're
shit. just it's just interesting. I'm not complaining about the movie, but it's just.
But he's introduced again, and he's great. I like the guy. He's it's so there's this thing where the movie kind of showcases that everything that Ethan has done throughout all the movies has kind of come back to, in a way, help him succeed in the mission. Like, William Dunlow wouldn't have been there if Ethan Hunt hadn't had
broken into the Black Vault.
Yeah. And it's this butterfly effect where, you know, everything that Ethan Hunt does just kind of comes back to him, whether it's in a good way or in a bad way. But altogether, it's really cool to see.
It's almost like the world of the movies revolves around the stunts.
Yeah.
In a way. I think that's pretty cool.
And
they do... It kind of absolves Ethan of a lot of guilt that he carries for those things, but I think the whole idea of these movies is that Ethan's heart and his mentality that everyone's life is super important it informs his decision making, and therefore I think the movie is trying to posit that if you think that way, if you value other people, if you value their contributions, their creativity, and their lives just as much, if not more than your own, then, well, maybe not more, I don't know, but then you are making noble choices most of the time, and those things tend to work out. Again, it's a movie.
It's like karma. It's like, you do good things will happen.
Again, it's a movie. It's a fantasy. It's not always, you know, the world is mysterious. It doesn't always work that way. It's just a cool message to have in the film, I think. And that's what they do with the team in this movie too.
Yeah, you were kind of like questioning like the team right after we watched it for the first time.
Well, that's just because there's characters in there like Degas, for example.
That's what I was getting to.
Yeah, I was like,
you didn't understand, but I think the whole point of him getting this specific team is he's picking off everybody from the people who are on the American side, people who are on the entity side. He's getting all these technically his enemies together to help him do the greater good, and I think that's kind of a cool way of him developing the team in this one, because we have Degas, who's with
Shea Wiggum's character.
Yeah, the Americans.
Who is the son of John Voight's character, which we find out in the movie.
Shea Wiggum's character. We also said this in the when we were predicting what would happen. I was like, they're hiding his identity. He has something personal with Ethan that they haven't mentioned, and I was just curious as to what that was. And he's the son of Jim Phelps from the very first movie, so it makes a lot more sense.
But he doesn't say that it's because he's trying to get revenge for his father. He says, he says, none of what you do would matter to me. The fact that we're, staring at Armageddon right now, and it's because of you, none of that would matter to me if what you did was following orders. But you always go rogue. You always do things that you think are right, and look at what the situation that we're in is. And then, of course, by the end, when Nathan fixes everything, he kind of understands him better, and he almost learns the lesson of the movie.
Yeah. Well, I also think it was a good little thing to bring him back and also have him named Jim Phelps, because I'm sure some people were probably irked by the fact that they made one of the OG members of Mission Impossible TV show, like the character, be a bad guy and kill him off. But this is kind of a way to bring back that character in a better light.
There always needs to be an Ethan-phobic character in every movie. I believe this to be true. So yeah, you have Degas, who has teamed up with him. You have Paris, who has teamed up with Gabriel in Dead Reckoning. You have, of course, Benji, been there since number 3. He's like the guy in the chair. He's one of the core members of the team. You have Grace, who is like a regular civilian almost.
Well, she's like thief, she's the new Ethan in a sense, because she's like when Ethan was hired, he was
almost everyone too. Yeah, like the same that the John Voight character got and everything.
Yeah, and Bill Dunlow, who is again OG, like from the first movie, and you get someone who's more worldly.
And he also works for the government.
Yeah.
So there's that.
So everybody on the team, he's just kind of picking off from people who are technically supposed to not like Ethan, but they all are on his side because he's doing the right thing. He's trying to stop the entity, which is the ultimate.
And I think that is why we did away with Elsa Faust, unfortunately, because she is basically the same as Ethan in terms of that context.
Yeah.
But yeah, the movie really picks up in the second half, as we said, and that's with the first of the big stunts in the film, which is the submarine Sevastopol. He's getting this source code of the entity out of there using the key, so he has to dive deep into the ocean. And this is like, there's two kinds of stunts in Mission Impossible. There's the crazy, like, face-melting ones where everything is huge and it's like, whoa, what is he doing? And this is also like that, but then there's the other ones that are quieter, slower, and they're just tension stunts. They're like, they make you uncomfortable and they make you squirm, and they're like, oh, like I think of the Black Vault in the original. It's a lot like that.
Well, the Black Vault was kind of like, that, because in the first one there's the train stuff and then there's that, but right. The submarine stunt was actually really cool, like, almost in a more cerebral way, because you have to think about all the steps he's taking just to get that the entity out of the little base there. He has to drop in the middle of the ocean, like randomly, not randomly, but basically it looks like you're randomly in the middle of the ocean to get picked up from a submarine that could or could not have been there at the right time. Then, since he's diving several, like probably few hundred feet, there's the whole depressurization kind of stuff happening. He could get the bends, which could be really bad, but they have, their depressurizing system is like classified, so there's ways for him to reach back to the top without getting fully exposed to the bends. And even before that even happens, he has to break into the submarine, which is basically going to fall off of a underwater
it's constantly
cliff.
Moving and rolling.
It's rolling around.
There's missiles in there.
There's missiles in there that could go off. He has to get out, get back to the top. There's so much happening. It's actually the most impossible of all the Mission Impossible.
It might be.
There
is a part where he literally has to, so the door can't open because there's like a missile in the way, and then he has to go out through a missile tube where the missile would fire, and he can't squeeze through with all of his equipment, so then he has to like put his equipment in separately and like crawl through, like Shawshank style, crawl through this tube. Then water starts filling up the tube, and he barely gets out. And by the end of it, he strips himself down to like just his boxers.
Yeah,
like,
he has no breathing apparatus either. He's just like basically drowning to the top.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
And it's like honestly, the first half of the movie is just building up to that one mission, because he needs the authorization of the president, the captain of
the aircraft
carrier, the captain of a submarine. And he has to do all of this stuff basically hoping that by the end of it, Grace is able to revive him from death.
And it all happens.
And it's kind of amazing.
And I actually love the moment when they make it very, very cinematic. When he gets to the top, they turn the camera. And this is something that happens a lot in the movie, too. There's a lot of upside down like imagery where he kind of falls to the top sheet of ice instead of rising. And then they show like this really cinematic moment of Grace in the water, like going up and like giving him air. And then it's like this little montage of her giving him CPR, and it's very slow. It's like a Christopher Nolan movie almost, like very much like laying with your wife, and it's like, oh no, she's dead. Like,
yeah, I mean that's cool. I mean, he's died several times in the series. Like, he had to be revived in 3. He had to be revived in 5. He had to be revived in this one. Like, there's Ethan Hunt.
He's always revived by a brunette.
Is constantly escaping death, which is just like so funny and cool at the same time.
Yeah, and so he's in this depressurization thing that Benji, I guess, brought or designed.
Yeah,
and he's just sitting there with Grace, and they talk about the entity and how she was like, only you can be trusted with it, but he doesn't think anybody could be trusted with it. And then we kind of get to the finale after that. Like, it's basically just them briefing the mission, and then they go to, I forget where it is exactly, but
They
it's
go
like,
to South Africa.
yeah, it's like this control room where the entity plans to hide when the nuclear apocalypse that it causes happens.
Yeah.
And so they have to. There's another bomb that they now have to defuse, and Gabriel's there, and then. It's funny because Gabriel's there and they have this great plan that they have it all worked out. Gabriel's going to they're going to give Gabriel the thing. He even says Gabriel's going to be part of the team and not know it. This is another thing plays into what we're talking about. It's all of his enemies, right?
Yeah.
So he wants Gabriel to take Luther's little USB of death that he made.
Like the
poison pill,
yeah,
and plug it into the source code from the outside because Gabriel wants to control the entity. But then when he does that, they're going to trap the entity into this other thing that Luther made, and they have 100 milliseconds to do it.
Yeah.
They say the blink of an eye, and so they have Grace do it because she's a pickpocket and
Yeah.
her timing is like amazing, which is another thing that complements like the fact that it had to be exactly this group of people.
Yeah, he put his trust in all these specific people to do the right thing, and not just the right thing, the thing that they're good at doing.
Right.
Like it wouldn't have happened if Benji wasn't down there to kind of walk them through it, even though he's also
and if Paris
bleeding
wasn't
out.
down there, if Paris wasn't down there to revive Benji, even though she's a killer, I guess she kind of understands how to slice people open,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. And then you have Bill Dunlow and his wife, which are able to defuse the bomb just in time. So there's all these different things, and while all this is happening, this is very much like Fallout, because you have the rest of the team defusing a bomb. Benji's life is threatened even in both movies, and then you have Ethan chasing the main villain away on 2 separate flying aircrafts, and they're fighting in the air. It is literally exactly like Fallout.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It's great.
Awesome.
The airplane sequences are so good. Like, they keep going. Like, I saw this tweet, like, right before we saw the movie where they're like, all this promotional stuff with the airplanes sequence is not showing you at all what happens, because they do some crazy stuff.
Insane.
In the air.
It is incredibly fun, especially because we both weren't a huge fan of Gabriel in the last movie, but in this movie, he's hamming it up. He's really
funny
fun
in this one. He's so evil in a great fun way that they needed more of in the last movie.
There's a part where him and Ethan are like locking eyes, and they're both on like their heads are like facing each other on the plane, and Gabriel, you can't even hear it over the plane. He's just barking at him like a rabid dog. It is so funny. I laugh every time I see it.
Also, Ethan, like, he breaks his arm during the plane, and
Gabriel's
he's just like ah!
Yeah, Gabriel's scream is so great. It's so great.
I also, and so Gabriel he dies, but what's great about it is that Gabriel, throughout the entire time that we see him, he's so convinced that the future's on his side, that he could, like, he's inevitable, that nothing could kill him, because he knows exactly what's going to happen. But what does kill him is is kind of like a random death. He has a parachute. He tries to like let go, but the tail of the plane just like
he
ends
hits him in the nuts, and then he like bends forward and cuts his head.
Yeah, and he dies through randomness, and that's what Ethan is good at, like, improvising, is the randomness that happens in each mission. Gabriel is so sure that everything's going to be on his side that he doesn't account for that. And that's the difference between Ethan and him.
Yeah, because there is a hubris to him where he like you said, he kind of believes that fate is on his side, and that's something we see in both movies. But in this one, he's not even working with the entity as closely because he didn't get the key at the end of the last movie, and they implied that the entity wasn't happy with that.
Yeah.
And so the entity no longer saw him as useful after that. And that's another thing that like proves you can't put your faith in something that's algorithmic and written, because you will be proven wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what happened on the train in the last movie, and that's what happens to him in this movie when he dies. And he's like, I want you and your friends to live long, healthy lives in the world that I create, which is a line that I really like, because he just wants to control the entity for himself. He just wants to control information, control everything that people consume, And I think that is another thing that the movie is that's really socially and politically motivated about the movie is the kind of ego of that character. And
Yeah.
I think him hamming it up, it really makes it like, it brings it all to the surface. It makes it like really obvious kind of what he's supposed to represent. There's a scene where he runs in this movie, and he's like doing the Tom Cruise run. Like it almost looks like he's trying to copy what Tom Cruise is doing.
Maybe, I don't know. The thing is, when people say that Tom Cruise is running like fairly, like he's a good runner. Like he runs, like I think it just looks different because obviously he's an individual. He's a person. Everybody has differences in how they function. But he just runs very like efficiently, and
right,
that
but I
looks
think,
different from most people running.
I guess you're probably right. It just, for some reason, like when you see that scene, it's dark in the scene, and like right at that moment, for a second, I thought it was Ethan, and then I saw he got closer to the camera, and I was like, oh, that's Gabriel running away. I was like, what?
If anything, it kind of showcases that they come from a very similar like background.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of getting at. Maybe that's not intentional, but that's what I took from it.
But he does the impossible. He has to jump out of a plane, try to kill the entity. Everything comes together, and everything works out.
Yeah.
Like Ethan doesn't die. The only person that does like die in this movie, really, on our side at least, is Luther, and obviously when he puts the poison pill in the source code, he has that, like we said earlier, has a little voice message for Ethan at the very end, which kind of sums up the entirety of the franchise, and we kind of wonder what's going to happen next. And I don't know. I feel like this really is like the end of I don't think they're going to bring it back, at least not with, Ethan Hunt. Involved.
I think at the end of the movie they refer to the entity a lot as a genie in a bottle, and they put the genie back in the bottle, and they kind of imprison it, and it's like it's there, but don't let it back out, And I think again, that's just what needs to happen with AI, bro. Straight up, like we need to just lock that shit down, regulate it, and just
honestly, why don't they just get a hammer and bust that shit? Like just destroy it. What do you need to hold it in a bottle for?
I don't know. I think it alters its ability to perceive reality or something. Like it's like it thinks that it's doing what it's trying to do, but it's just in there.
Yeah, probably
something like that. Yeah,
but I mean, we also saw this in 40X too. That was fun.
We did. We saw it in IMAX first. It was Limax. It was not like IMAX, which I will go and see it in actual IMAX, and that'll be fun. But then 40X, we saw it. It wasn't as crazy as I expected it to be, except for two parts. One was this part where Ethan's fist fighting a guy with a knife, and then like there's just this whole kind of back and forth. There's two like hand-to-hand action sequences happening at the same time, and those are always crazy because it feels like you're getting the shit beaten out of you.
Yeah.
But then there's another part when Ethan is chasing Gabriel out of the cavern or whatever, and he's driving a car, and the terrain is so rocky, and he crashes the car, and oh my god,
everybody lost their minds during that.
Everybody in the theater laughed in disbelief when it was over, because we all just were getting shook around.
You would have thought that the 40X would have really like came in during like the plane sequence, which it did. It was really fun during that, but like that one scene where he's just driving the car for a few seconds and then crashes was one of the wildest 40X. It was like, holy.
It reminded me of when we watched Twisters, because in Twisters half the time they're driving cars and it's all rocky, and that's exactly what's fun about watching that movie.
For F1's gonna be crazy.
That trailer, every time we see it in the 40X, it's so good. It's gonna be amazing. I can't wait. Also, the only complaint I have about the 40X is just the fact that when he's in the sub, there's not enough water. I wish there was more water getting splashed on me.
Yeah, we should get like that. Was pretty fun when every once in a while we get a little mist of water.
I wish there was more. I kind of like the water.
Yeah, I like when we get sprayed. It's fun.
I also like when like we get sprayed with like mist, like air, just in our face. But yeah,
anyway, that was the movie. I liked a lot of it. The action's really, all the hand-to-hand combat stuff was so good. This might be like one of the better hand-to-hand like action
Yeah, I mean the
Mission Impossible.
bathroom fight in Fallout is definitely probably the peak of
That's
that for the series.
probably peak for sure, but the ones in this one, the camera work and just everybody. Tom Cruise is going crazy on this one. He's like flipping and doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome. He kicks a guy in the face 3 times. He's like, "You spend too much time on the internet." It's awesome, and I think he's trying to do that to everybody by releasing this movie.
Yeah, and we forgot to mention some of the newer cast, like Tremel Tillman, who plays a submarine captain.
He's awesome. He's one of those Mission Impossible characters that just talks in a very distinct way. He's like, if you want to poke the bear, you came to the right man.
Yeah, it really gives that like Crimson Tide kind of feel where the submarine is like you have these Navy guys that just like they're out to get some blood.
And he only calls Ethan Hunt like Mister the whole time.
Him and the carrier
Katie O'Brien?
Yeah. No.
Katie O'Brien's in the movie. She's really good. I was cool to see her.
The one,
what character are you talking about?
The aircraft carrier captain.
Oh, I don't know her name.
Her name's like Hannah something, I think.
But I do know who you're talking about.
Yeah. But even she calls him Mister. She's like, Mister, what is your?
Yeah.
But yeah. I
think it's because he doesn't have like an official title or anything. He's just a guy, and they're somehow having to take orders from this guy. So they're like, Mister, like it's not Sir, it's Mister. And I think that's kind of cool.
But yeah, all the new people in this movie, what's his face is in this? Parks and Rec guy.
Oh, Nick Offerman.
Nick Offerman's in this
and
one.
Holt McCallany.
They're all in this. They're all great with the president scenes. I think there's also that sense of trust coming back as a theme because there's a point where Nick Offerman takes a gun from one of the security guys, and we assume that he's the bad guy, he's gonna shoot the president or something. But no, he knows that there's actually an acolyte, which is what they call the people who are on the entity side, who's in the room with them, and he knows that there's a threat in there, and he needs to make sure that they're safe. But even though he's not on the same side as the president, he has trust and respect for the president to save her life by taking out the acolyte.
Yeah, even if he didn't agree with what she was doing at that moment.
And I just thought that was really nice and cool, too.
Yeah, cool subversion for sure. I think a nice image to sum up the movie is when Shea Wiggum holds a gun up and then takes it and turns it into a handshake. I think that's the whole movie right there. That's the microcosm of the film. Point a gun at Tom Cruise. No, actually, give me some dap. You know?
And they do the Tom Cruise handshake where it's like a shake and then holding it.
Yeah, no, I started doing that with people at work this weekend, working this movie at the theater. I was teaching that to everybody.
But yeah, that's all the movies. We went through all the movies.
Let's
rank them. We're going to rank them. Yeah.
Yeah. I have my ranking pulled up here.
Me too. So we're going from worst to best, I assume. What is your worst? I think we all know.
Can we just say it together on 3?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah, Mission Impossible 2.
Oh,
I didn't know how. I didn't know if you were going to say MI2.
We're going to say the full titles.
Okay. But yeah, that was for
fine.
obvious reasons.
It's fine.
Yeah.
You know, most people don't like it the most, and it's fine. What's your second?
Oh, this is actually.
So this is where it gets
rough.
Actually so tight.
This is rough.
Yeah.
So second and third, I mean, I guess it's 7 and 6 in terms of a ranking. Is kind of a tie for me.
Okay.
I don't know if
it's actually that way for me as well.
It's not going to be the same.
It's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
But it is that way for me as well. So go ahead and say your 2. I'll say my 2.
It's going to be Final Reckoning and Dead Reckoning.
That's fair. I think that they are comparable films in terms of, they follow the similar story, and if you're not into the entity stuff and the Gabriel stuff, you're just not going to vibe with them, especially because they can be kind of over serious at times.
Yeah.
But I also think there's going to be some people who think those are the best. Like there's going to be some reckoning heads out there.
Yeah.
In due time.
I also want to preface by saying that Mission Impossible 2 is the only movie that I consider like to be mid to kind of bad of a movie.
It's the only one that's not great.
It's the only one that's not great. Everything else that we're saying, I love these movies. They're just like the rankings.
Yeah,
just like
I concur. So for me, it's Ghost and Final Reckoning. It's Ghost Protocol and Final Reckoning because Ghost Protocol, I love it. I love Brad Bird. I love everything. Paula Patton, come on. But for some reason, I've just never feel compelled to revisit that one as much as the other ones. I don't know what it is. I love it.
For me, I think that was really like the opening to my Mission Impossible world, because obviously I saw Mission Impossible 2 and 3, but when Ghost Protocol came out, it was kind of like, oh, this is Mission Impossible.
And it establishes a lot of what McQuarrie picks up on later.
Yeah.
And that's what's great about it.
Yeah. And I just kind of grew up with that one. It's so rewatchable to me. Like the pacing is so great. Honestly, the only thing that I'm not a huge fan on is the villain, and like we've talked about that before.
Yeah. But no, I love both of those. I think it's very interchangeable, but with Final Reckoning, like we said, pacing issues and everything aside, I think just that and Dead Reckoning, I just love the themes and the subtext of those movies and how motivated they are to the times as just contemporary action movies. They have a lot that they're clearly trying to get across. It's not always done gracefully, except for when Haley Atwell's on screen. Then there's grace in there. But yeah, it's not perfect, but it is, I think, very sincerely done, and I love those movies. And they have some of the most insane large-scale stunts. So I would say, yeah, Ghost, and then Final. So what is your number 5?
Number 5 for me is Mission Impossible 3.
Okay.
What's yours?
That's a good one. Mine is Dead Reckoning.
Okay.
Again, we already talked about it. But yeah.
4, mine is Rogue Nation.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. For me, it's the OG. No, OG Mission Impossible, number 4. Not the craziest stunts yet, but it really is just such a well-directed, well-written, like, fun movie. It flies right by. It's got great drama. I love the Dutch angles, like that scene with Kittredge in the restaurant. So great. Like, if you want to shake hands with the devil, go ahead, but I'll just want to make sure you're in hell or something like that. It's just, the writing is great. I love that movie a lot. What's your number 3?
Number 3, that is Ghost Protocol for me.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that movie, just, I hold a lot of love in my heart for that movie. And I mean, it's got the Burj Khalifa like stunt like that. I think that really got people on board for the Mission Impossible
It's
movies.
A fantastic stunt, top tier for the franchise for sure. So for me, number 3, and I changed this today because it used to be number 2. I switched it because again, this is like damn near another tie.
Yeah.
But number 3 is Mission Impossible 3.
3. Yeah.
I love that movie.
The thing is, it's hard to rank these because there's so many great things in each movie that it's like, oh, but then that movie has that scene, or oh, but that movie has that scene.
That's exactly what happened to me when I was switching these around. But for me, number 3, it's just got this grounded, sweaty like element to it. Ethan Hunt is just going through it in that movie, and I know it's kind of like the spy has a family and it's a double life, and that's kind of tired, but in this movie it's just done so well, and it's so different from all the other movies. There's not really like a huge stunt in there that everyone talks about. It's really just a movie about fighting against time, and it's I think a thing that's carried throughout the rest of the series from then on is the whole thing about fighting against time and doing things that you probably shouldn't do or that everyone says is a bad idea in order to save someone you care about. And that is something Ethan Hunt, he's such a romantic character, and I think this movie is almost the start of that kind of journey for him, and his worldview really comes into fruition in this particular movie. And the way that it kind of starts is exemplifying that, where it starts with that countdown before and it's the best cold open.
The best opening, the best villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 3. I love 3
I
a
would say
lot.
arguably the best villain. There's one
Yeah,
other. Yeah.
but yeah, no, 3 is amazing. They basically rebooted that franchise into a better direction. They were less like Cold War espionage spy, and they kind of transitioned into more post 9/11 attack against America type stuff. And I thought that was a really cool kind of transition into not only politics but the way that you could shoot the Mission Impossible movies and the way that you could feel about them. It is a great film. I almost wish it's higher on my list, but there's other ones that are better for me.
All right, so number 2 for you.
Okay, so these 2 and 1 are also like pretty tied. Like,
Okay.
and obviously it's the first Mission Impossible and Fallout.
And for me, Rogue Nation and Fallout.
Yeah.
The reason I put Rogue Nation at 2 today is because I just thought back to that scene with Alec Baldwin. I just can't not have that. I can't not have that in the top tier. Like Rebecca Ferguson, obviously as well, but like,
Oh yeah.
Hunt is the living manifest. It's the best. It's too good.
Well, for me, so the reason why I put Fallout is just obvious. Like,
Yeah,
it's
obviously.
obvious.
It's
like
most
the
people's favorite.
Yeah, it's the stunts. Some of the best stunts you could ever put on film. Some of the best action you could ever put on film. The story, the pacing is great. Rebecca Ferguson's in it, so obviously it has to be a 5-star movie.
Right.
But it's basically a perfect Mission Impossible movie, other than the very first Mission Impossible movie. And the reason why that's number 1 is because for me it really is just like the perfect type of movie that it has to be. And it's not like those types of movies weren't around when that came out, but Brian De Palma really utilized what he was known for to make that movie great. Tom Cruise, this was like one of his earlier times as a producer. He really knew what he wanted and how to change up the like bringing back a like older IP. He really wanted to change it up and do something different. I just think they got all the right people on board to make that movie, even though the production was a bit, with all these movies, the production was shaky on all of them, but everybody on the first Mission Impossible movie was in the perfect role for what they were doing with that film. And I just think that movie on its own is just kind of, for me, perfect.
They nailed it.
Yeah.
And that's the rankings.
That's the rankings. We also wanted to rank top 3 stunts too.
Yeah, we're not going to get too crazy and too into it, ranking all the stunts, but the top 3, I have 3 on mind. You have 3 in mind.
Yeah, it's hard because we did mention there's 2 types of stunts. There's, the big crazy like, oh my god, Tom Cruise could die doing this stunt, and the other more like, oh no,
they're more story driven.
Yeah, and it's like they're either you're counting down through the time or you got to do something like really quiet or espionage-y. So I guess I'll go with my third one would be the submarine one from Final Reckoning, because that, to me, that is such an actually impossible mission. The amount of tape you have to go through just to have that mission accomplished is crazy, and he still dies at the end and needs to be revived. Like, there's so many things going against him and yet he still pulls it off. Like, it's amazing.
Right. It's a great stunt, and it's both impressive from a narrative standpoint and from a technical standpoint, making it. I agree that's a fantastic stunt. For me, it's actually the biplanes from Final Reckoning.
Yeah.
I just can't get over how funny Gabriel is in that scene. Honestly, the best part. I love that he just kind of like grabs onto the plane like out of impulse. He's like, I guess I'm doing this. Just great scene. We already talked about it.
Yeah.
For me, number 2 would be actually the first one, the Black Vault break-in.
Classic.
And the reason that's one of my favorites is because that is, I think, the peak of the kind of the clench stunt where you're like, oh god, there's such a little margin for error. I think it establishes in the franchise such a great like amount of stakes. You know, it's this small thing. You break into a room, you steal something, but like the room is so heavily guarded and well designed that like they're all like, what the fuck are we gonna, like, there's a part where Luther and Ethan are kind of explaining it, and it's like, damn, and they
Yeah.
just keep piling on variables, and it's a great scene. It's perfect.
That would be like my fourth if I had like that's like an honorable mention for me.
I would also, I also have an honorable mention, but I have a feeling that's going to be your number 2
Okay.
or number 1.
Yeah, my number 2 is the helicopter sequence in
Oh, okay, interesting.
Fallout. I just like they shot it on IMAX. It looks so good. He's doing all that stuff for real.
Just the landscape is beautiful.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful stunt as well. Like everything he's doing, whether it's like him flying the helicopter or him like holding on to it or like falling and then having to hold on to the thing
little
it's
like
carrying.
payload thing. Yeah,
All of that stuff is amazing. It's so good. I guess because it's Fallout, you could also put the skydiving scene in there, but the helicopter scene just itself
to
is
me,
amazing.
yeah, that is the best stunt in that movie as well. My number 2 is, well, oh wait, I already said that. What am I talking about? My number 1 is that.
Okay.
That was the one I put as number 1. And then for you, what is the best one?
I think it has to be the Burj Khalifa one. It's
I knew
so
you were gonna say
iconic.
that.
It's just so iconic and crazy. The amount of red tape they had to in terms of production just to get that stunt figured out.
We actually did explain that.
Yeah.
When we were talking about Ghost as well.
But
it's crazy.
It's so it's crazy. It's cool and it looks great and yeah, it's.
And the reason I say that is because we did that a week ago, and you guys heard that like an hour ago. So
yeah, but that's your honorable mention.
That was my honorable mention. Yeah. Okay, and then real quick, favorite Ethan Hunt hairstyle. Me, Rogue Nation.
Rogue Nation is great. It's hard to pick. I think. Oh man,
it's that little strand of hair over his forehead in Rogue Nation. That's really what does it.
It could be Rogue Nation or like maybe Ghost Protocol, but yeah, the longer hair is the better here. A lot of people would say Mission Impossible too because he's younger and has
that movie's damn near plot relevant. The hair, like they flip that hair so much.
But I think they really perfected in that like Ghost Protocol Nation, Rogue Nation.
Yeah,
movies.
It's more balanced.
Yeah. And then we were talking about like the future of Mission Impossible, if you think anything's going to come out of it. I think with the way that studios are, they're going to reboot it in like 15 years.
And I don't think Cruise will be involved on camera, but you actually had a really interesting thought.
So something that we found out that was really cool was that the plane stunt in Final Reckoning,
and also the helicopter in Fallout.
Tom Cruise was doing like the focus pulling by himself on those.
There's no crew. He's the crew as well.
Tom Cruise is the crew when he's doing those stunts. So you could tell he has an eye for like making something look good. And I want to see Tom Cruise direct a movie, like some big action movie, like a Mission Impossible movie. I don't know if he'll come back to direct a Mission Impossible movie, but that would be like.
That would be best case scenario.
That would be best case scenario. I want to see Tom Cruise. He loves film so much. It doesn't make sense for him to not direct a movie sometime in his future.
And I think if there was a reboot and he directed it and he was kind of heavily involved in the production and maybe the story as well, I think it could be pretty cool.
Yeah. Anyway,
we're getting long as shit.
Yeah, that
this
was
is gonna
the
be
Mission
crazy.
Impossible episode. We went through all of them and the Final Reckoning as well. Oh man, that was a lot.
Yeah, and wow, what a journey! I really don't want to let go of these movies.
Tell us what your favorite movie, Mission Impossible movie is, or your favorite stunts in the comments. Let us know what you think about them. If you loved it, if you hated them,
and what did you think of the Final Reckoning?
Yeah, and man, what are we gonna do after this? I felt like that we've been doing this for like 2 weeks now.
Yeah, no, I feel like this is all I've been talking about and doing. We're talking about some more movies.
Yeah.
Maybe some new ones that have come out kind of recently or are coming out in the near future. I'm being very vague. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
All right. Well, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to follow us on other platforms. And if especially on TikTok, if you want to see some clips, some shorts. And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I've been Peyton.
And I've been Adryon.
And we'll see you next time on the Apple Box.
All right.
This podcast will self-destruct in 5 seconds.